Our own Scott McLaughlin, WEEI, weei.com. Scott, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You pumped
Opening
up?
night, yeah.
You excited?
Absolutely.
What are you more excited about, opening night or the Swayman deal getting done?
Both. Well, excited that the Swayman deal got done before opening night,
Yes.
so it just isn't. Now, it would have been good content, right, to be able to react. Every single game would have been, oh, did the goalie play well, and did the Bruins have more leverage? Did Korpisalo struggle, and now Swayman has more leverage? But I feel like that would have gotten old really fast. Like that, 4 games in, you would have been like, okay, enough of writing about this every night.
As much as you can tell in a short period of time, is all water under the bridge? Is there any ill will on either side, both sides from the negotiations? We were talking earlier about Swayman's press conference. It was kind of weird. It was kind of politician. He kept steering back to what he wanted to say, not really answering questions. So where do you think the relationship is now that there is a long-term contract?
I'm sure there's probably some hurt feelings, but it's very easy to just not think about it. Like you've got it done, you've got the money, the season's starting. You just don't have to think about it. Like it's in the past. So whether it's water under the bridge or it's just out of sight, out of mind because now you're done with all that. Like Brad Marchand talked about this when he was asked about the Swayman negotiations. Before the deal was done, and he said, and he had like that optimistic tone of it's going to get done and then everyone's going to move on. And he talked about how like when guys go through these negotiations on long-term deals that do usually take a while to get done, once it's done, it's just like such a huge weight off your back, off your shoulders. Like you're just like, thank God I don't have to think about that, deal with that, look at those numbers and paperwork every day and hear what people are saying about me, and like it's just all gone, and it's back to tunnel vision on hockey.
Who won the deal?
I think it was pretty fair. So all along I thought 8x8 was like what it was going to end up at. So I guess if I had to pick a side, I'd say Swayman because it came in a little over $8 million a year, but very close to what I thought was going to be fair.
And you also just saw what Shesterkin turned down reportedly. So, I mean, knowing that may be what the market sort of expands to over the next year or two, this may end up looking like a good deal for the Bruins.
It certainly could. But, they're gambling on Swayman, though, right? Like, he has not proven himself as a workhorse number 1 goalie. He would have liked to have had that chance, right? It's not his fault that they were platooning, that they had a Vezina winner and Lena Solmark here with him. But that is still something that he hasn't done yet. So the Bruins are making a bet on him as well, whereas someone like Igor Shesterkin has played 50 to 60 games every season and clearly has that track record that, he can hold up to that. He can perform well. He's going to be in the Vezina conversation every year. So I think for the, when the Rangers, I still think Shesterkin's going to sign with the Rangers. When they ultimately do get that done, they are paying for that certainty, for that track record, whereas Swayman doesn't have that yet, which is why he can't play in that $10, $11 million neighborhood.
How long till we see him, and do you think there will be any rust?
So it looks like it is going to be Korpisalo tonight. He was first goalie off, according to all the reporters down there. Swayman stayed on after and skated with the healthy scratches. So it'll be Korpisalo tonight. I think Swayman's going to be in there Thursday for the home opener, probably.
Nice.
I think the fact that they even left the door open for tonight shows you that he's pretty close, and Jim Montgomery and Bob Essenza probably like what they've seen in, limited viewings Monday and Tuesday down there in Florida. So I'm going to guess Thursday.
Do you expect some rust? Because I think he needs to be careful, because we were just talking about it. I think there is a portion of the fan base that soured on him a little bit during these negotiations, and then if he comes out...
Not me, but...
Not you.
Others.
His head was so far up Swayman's butt. You sound like you're a little more on the realistic Andy side, which also means you're called a boomer for seeing that side and that viewpoint. Anyway, do you think that... Because if he comes out and has a couple bad games, the people that were a little annoyed with the negotiations are probably going to be annoyed that now he's rusty and now he's not the guy that's living up to the contract. So... Do you expect rust, and should he be careful, maybe protecting himself and not rushing to get out there?
It's a possibility for sure. You just don't know, right? Because he hasn't gone into a game. He didn't have any preseason action. So that stuff does matter for guys. He was over at BU. He was training. He was facing shots. But listen, BU alum, great program over there. it's not the NHL.
Right.
So it's still a little different. So yeah, I'm sure there's some concern, but I don't think it'll take him long. Like, it might even be a matter of the first period or period and a half, face 7-8 shots and he's back in a rhythm.
The offseason outside of this Jeremy Swayman thing, which I think really took the spotlight away from the most active offseason the Bruins ever had. They spent $92 million as a franchise record. They have two big names that came in and a bunch of other guys who we haven't really done, like Max Jones and these other guys who were first-round picks and ended up sort of flaming out on their teams and getting signed here for sort of these, second chances at going out there. And I just feel like the entire rest of the offseason got completely overshadowed by this thing with Jeremy Swayman. With that in mind, it's opening night tonight. What sort of expectations do you have for these new players, and how are they going to fit in?
Yeah, it's going to look like a different team. They are the biggest team in the NHL. They're the tallest, and they're the second heaviest, just behind the Vegas
tallest
Golden
and
Knights.
fattest. I love it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Get out
or,
there.
Or it might be vice versa. It might be second, whatever. But regardless,
tall and fat is the point,
on the
yeah.
whole, they're the biggest. Yeah, like they went out, they got guys who are physical, fast, are mean, like guys who play with an edge. Obviously, people, probably know Nikita Zadorov. He kind of headlines the group in that respect. Obviously, Elias Lindholm was the big fish, the number one center. But Zadorov helps change that attitude, but so do Max Jones, as you mentioned. Mark Kastelik, who they got in the Linus Ullmark trade, who had like 50 post-whistle scrums in the preseason alone. Like every whistle, he was mixing up with someone. So, yeah, they're going to look a little different. They're going to be tougher, grittier team. Offense is, still a question mark. We just played that coming out, and Christian, you led into that. They did have trouble scoring in the playoffs, and that's still going to be a question mark. But I think they might have the best defense core in the NHL. Now you have Swayman locked up. He's conservatively a top 5-6 goalie in the league. So that should be a strength. And the way that they play, I think will be better suited to the playoffs. Now, what it looks like as they build over the course of the regular season and get there may be times that they struggle for some points, struggle to score, and have to figure some things out as they go.
So Jim Montgomery, lame duck coach, apparently. I was not aware of this. I think sort of the other contracts and offseason movement overshadowed his status. Do you think there is a chance that he's a true lame duck coach, or do you think he's here for the long haul? Is he in a prove-it phase? Where does that stand?
I think they probably get an extension worked out. They've already started talking. Don Sweeney has said that. He said it was important to him to let Jim Montgomery know that they wanted to extend him, but wanting to extend him and having talks is not
Right.
signing a contract. So,
Show me the money.
right. So until it's done, Jim Montgomery remains in lame duck status. I wonder if it's maybe something where you just want to see, okay, as long as they get off to a pretty good start, then they'll get something done, hammer it out in November or December. On the flip side, if you get off to a bad start, maybe you start second-guessing that and have some tougher conversations as a front office. But I do think they're probably going to get something done.
Would you say that the idea of them getting bigger and stronger and tougher is a direct response to the Florida Panthers and the fact that they've had so much trouble with them in the last couple of years?
Yep, absolutely. Like that's it. It can be a fool's errand to build a team around one opponent
Just to beat one team? Yeah, right.
What if you don't play them?
But in the Bruins case, like they're in your division, you're both probably going to finish in the top 2 to 3 in the division again.
Mm-hmm.
You're most likely going to have to go through them. And so, you have to build a team that's going to be able to beat them. And you know why you've lost to them the last 2 years. Like, it's been physical. I would say each of the last 2 postseasons, the most physical series both years was Bruins-Panthers. Like, talking whole league. So you have to find a way to win that physical battle of attrition. And I think, they made those moves to put themselves in a better position to do that.
So scrolling around weei.com, which everybody should do on a daily
Great website.
basis, I see your 10 bold predictions for the 2024-2025 Bruins. The top 2 are the most, I would say, intriguing or hopeful or optimistic for Bruins fans. 1 is Jeremy Swayman wins the Vezina. 2 is David Pastrnak sets a career high in points. Which of those is less bold? Which of those is more likely to actually happen?
Pastrnak setting a career high in points is less bold. That is more likely to happen because he had 113 2 years ago. That is his career high. Last year, he had 110 after losing both centers that he had played with his entire career. No Patrice Bergeron, no David Krejci. He is doing all the heavy lifting offensively, and he still has 110 points. So now you give him Elias Lindholm, who I still have questions as to whether he is truly an elite number one center on a cup team, but he was the best guy available, so you go get him. He is an upgrade over what Pastrnak had at center last year. So I think that's going to make a big difference. Lindholm will help kill plays defensively. He's a good defensive center. Get them going on the attack more. He can pop open for Pastrnak. He's a good finisher. He's a good passer. He can help set up Pastrnak. I think that's going to be a good mix. So to say Pastrnak can get 4 more points than last year seems very doable to me.
Is the comparisons to Bergeron for Lindholm, are those lazy? Are they apt? Where do you fall on that?
It's a little lazy. He plays the same kind of 200-foot style. He's just not as good at it. And that's not even that's not a knock.
Right.
Patrice Bergeron, you're talking about arguably the greatest defensive center in the history of the league.
The Bergeron trophy someday.
Yeah.
Right.
Lindholm's not that, but that doesn't mean he's bad. Or
right.
He's still good defensively. He's gotten Selke votes in the past. He has a 40-goal season on his resume when he was playing with Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew Tkachuk up in Calgary. This is going to be the best line he's been on since then. So, yeah, his point totals took a huge dip last year, but he was in a bad situation in Calgary where everyone wanted out. And then he goes to Vancouver, and they really never found a home for him. They played him on the wing. They played him at third-line center, and he was just kind of moving all around. He finally started to click in the playoffs and actually had a pretty good postseason for them, which obviously helped his free agent value. But I think I can easily see him topping 70 points playing on the line with Pastrnak.
Interesting. Well, we'll see. What's your biggest concern with this team going into opening night?
It's the scoring. I mean, all summer long we talked about they're missing a second-line right wing. Who's going to win that job? It's going to be Morgan Geekie to start, and I think Geekie could be a pretty solid fit there. I actually like Geekie quite a bit as a player, but most likely you're going to be in a situation where you're looking to address that before the trade deadline. So until then, you need guys to step up, whether that's Geekie, Trent Frederick, Justin Brazeau is starting the season on the third line. He flashed some offense in a small sample late last season. Let's see if he can do that for a longer period of time. Those secondary scores are all going to have to step up and take a step. Charlie Coyle's going to have to be a 60-point guy again. That was his career high last year. He can't take a step back. Pavel Zacha needs to build off an almost 60-point season. So that's just that's a lot of ifs. It's a lot of guys who need to take a step forward. If half of them don't, then you might struggle offensively.
Is the deadline going to be tougher to navigate this year with no cap space? I mean, they're up to 200,000 in cap space or something?
So they will accrue cap space throughout the season because they are not in long-term injured reserve, which really, so two things really hurt them last year. They had bonuses from Bergeron and Krejci carryover, and Milan Lucic just wound up parked on long-term IR all season, so they never accrued any cap space. This year they will build some up throughout the year because they're under the cap to start. So that'll help them. They should have enough money to be able to add someone at the deadline.
What is a realistic hope or expectation? Win a series, win 2 series, Eastern Conference Final, Stanley Cup. Where are you at with this team?
I think the floor should be win a series and get back to where they were last year. And I think the ceiling is, to me, I think they're a cup contender. I think they could win it all. They're not a favorite to do that. I'm not picking them to do that, but I do think they could get out of the conference. They are better built to beat the Florida Panthers. It is really hard to go on 3 straight deep playoff runs. The Panthers have played a lot of hockey and a lot of very physical hockey the last 2 years. So I think they could be a little more vulnerable. They lost quite a bit of depth. And then if you cross over to the Metro Division, I think the Atlantic is the better division in the Eastern Conference. So whoever comes out of those first 2 rounds in the Atlantic, I think absolutely could win the conference finals, go to the Cup final.
All right, we'll leave it right there then. Scott McLaughlin, great to talk with you. Enjoy hockey tonight. We all will, assuming they go ahead and play it.